Hey friends, welcome back. Sir Ezra, the Watchful here, here with Sir Matt, and we've got some breaking Game of Thrones, George R. R. Martin news, my friend.
Yes, we do. As it would appear that George R. R. Martin has signed a 8-figure deal. Now, 8 figures is minimally $10 million, probably more. 5 years, says it's worth mid 8 figures. So that sounds to me, the mid figures sounds like $50 million. And it is to continue working on HBO shows. Most obviously Game of Thrones. Seems like he's going to be a writer, lead creative role, and help HBO Max continue to expand its original content. Obviously, the question becomes Winds of Winter. He says he has still said he hopes to have it out to finish it this year, but who knows? We do know that HBO has announced obviously at least 3 more sort of in the running shows. Right, 10,000 ships, Flea Bottom,
Sure.
9 voyages, whatever. The Sea Snake, right?
Right.
So those are some kind of working titles, and so we'll see what ends up coming out of those. There's some good and some bad with this, I think,
Yep.
to say the least. I think the bad, let's get this out of the way, is Winds of Winter dead? Is it dead,
Is
Ez?
it? Oh, is it over? Is it over? I would say actually, I think, I don't know. When do you start talking on a deal like this? I think you talk about this for a long time, right? I think this is something maybe that he's been talking with them about since the end of season 8, maybe, or 6 months or a year afterwards. Who knows? Which would have been just, not that long ago. So did he know that? And then he said, all right, let me just, let me really get huge chunks of Winds of Winter, done. Or was that the pandemic, him being up in the cabin, whatever it is? I know he wants to finish it. When he finished, it's up to him. I said this to you before we started. It's his life. Let the man live the life he wants to live. I think he's always wanted to, I think he loves TV. He loves TV shows. He loves movies. He loves the idea of that. He's been a writer on TV shows before, and he thinks it's fun. He just happened to have great success with this epic, A Song of Ice and Fire series, and it's shown kind of through that, and then through HBO, what a great writer he is, what a good creator he is. And I think people, let him do what he wants to do. When he's passionate about it, when the time is right, he will write Winds of Winter or finish it. Maybe he is trying to finish big chunks of it before he starts, with this contract or this deal or whenever it actually starts. But yeah, I think I'm still hopeful. So I said this a couple videos back. I am a believer. I believe in George. I believe there's enough there that he could release skeleton version. Maybe he wants to turn it over to somebody else, whatever it might be. I believe we will get Winds of Winter. I just don't believe we're going to get it this decade. Okay, so
Okay.
I'm just not so.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
so the good thing is, regardless of what happens with Winds of Winter, the good thing here is we are getting more A Song of Ice and Fire universe.
Yeah.
That is obviously going to be expanded. HBO Max, AT&T has big plans for it. They've said right now there's roughly around 50 million people who have HBO. They've said they plan on that being up to 150 million in by like 2025 to 2026. So
Right.
they're going to need content. There's obviously content streaming wars with Disney and everything they're doing with Marvel and Star Wars. Then you have, Paramount Plus coming out, and all of these things are coming out. You need content. It's all about the intellectual
Sure.
properties that you own, and how do we crank out as much content as possible, especially as people are cutting cords and getting away from cable subscriptions and shifting over to these streaming services. So that means there's going to be a lot more Game of Thrones. So that in itself is a good thing. That means
Yeah.
that George is going to be working on more Song of Ice and Fire stories. Probably going to get Dunk and Egg. We're going to be getting, Nymeria and Corlys Velaryon and the Dance of the Dragons and all of these things, maybe someday the Blackfire Rebellion. So that in itself is good, and it's good that he's there. Now, it's sort of a creative role. Is he going to be, that means he could be an advisor, he could be sort of just overseeing this whole thing. Regardless, we're getting more Game of Thrones content, so that in itself is awesome. Now, the difference I would say here with Winds of Winter and why I'm still hopeful it will actually come out is, for starters, when Game of Thrones came out on TV, it exploded to levels of success that no other television show in history have ever exploded to, right? And so that in itself is kind of like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. Then he also thought he would be able to get the books out. Well, now he's not racing anymore against the show and feeling like I'm not going to be able to finish this, because none of the content that's going to be coming out has anything, I mean, I shouldn't say it doesn't have anything to do with Winds of Winter, but it's all pre-Winds of Winter. So it's not like he's racing against the clock with that in order to get this HBO stuff ready. I think the thing we look at is that it's going to keep him busy, so he'll be focusing on that as opposed to, say, Winds of Winter. But at least his mind is in Game of Thrones and not in stuff like all the other stuff that he does, like the wild cards and all that other stuff. This is it's all Westeros focused, so that is good. And the fact, one last point here, the fact that we're getting a House of the Dragon show, which is going to be the Dance of the Dragons, all of that stuff is really outlined. He doesn't really need, and he's probably doesn't have plans to go back and write. This is word for word exactly what happened during the Long Night, and word for word happened during the Blackfire Rebellion, and that all stuff. He's like, I've got my outline. Yes, no, I like this. I don't like this. It's kind of similar to the way George Lucas handled Star Wars stories before he sold it to Disney after he'd finished the prequels. Yes, I like that. No, I don't like that. With like the Clone Wars and all of this stuff, he just kind of serves as an advisor to say yes or no.
Yeah, and I think you make a really good point that his creative mind is still going to be in Westeros and Essos and so on. So when he wants to scratch that writing itch, he'll go scratch it in Winds of Winter, right? I mean, hopefully that's what we're hoping, anyways. And maybe he'll do some of that with. We largely think the Dunk and Egg series that's not finished. We think a lot of that actually is connected, and that there is some really cool stuff that happens, air quote, cool, with Summerhall and those characters. And Rhaegar's story, the Song of Ice and Fire kicking off into Robert's Rebellion. So if his mind is there and he's thinking about a lot of that precursor to his big series, his mind will be there, and he's more likely to return to some of that and finish it up or edit it or just kind of work through it. So I'm with you. I think there's still a chance and there's still a hope for that. And he's not going to be, I don't know how I don't know how much he's going to be working directly with writers or just advise, like you said, like a consult kind of thing. Now for HBO, this is really smart, right? I mean, what Disney is doing with the Avengers, with the Mandoverse, that's a big deal. And having shows that are interconnected, spin-offs, people love it. The CW with the Arrowverse, we talk about this a lot. One of my favorite things is to see a superhero from this TV show that I like pop in for a special guest episode here. Then they're doing things where they're all kind of, coming together. I think it was 2 weeks ago or last week when we talked about the Corlys Velaryon, show. I kind of said, what, is that going to be like pre House of the Dragon? Is that going to happen at the same time? Now I get it. Now I'm seeing it. And, I want to hear what people have to think, what their thoughts are on this, because this is something where you could do House of the Dragon and then you can take us with the Sea Snake to other places and, reference Rhaenyra or the High Towers or whoever you want, and you can take us further and kind of, we can discover more elements of magic or just whatever. I mean, make it interconnected and start to build kind of a Westeros verse. What's the term going to be?
Whatever.
I don't know. Game of Thrones
Whatever.
verse.
Yeah, and I will say that there's a big difference in style compared to say what Disney does and say what Warner Brothers does, who's AT&T really ultimately, who's the parent company of this side, whereas Disney is far more everything has to be connected and everything has to sort of flow into each other. Warner Brothers, AT&T, HBO, they kind of go with a different approach. That's why we see you have the DC animated universe, right? With Batman vs Superman and Wonder Woman, all that stuff's connected. But if we think we can make a lot of money and we think we can make a great movie by getting Joaquin Phoenix to go play a standalone Joker movie, we're not going to do that. And so does it fit into the DC universe? No. But was it an amazing movie? Yes. They just have a different approach to it. And I think it could work well here with Game of Thrones. They might say, you know what? We're going to just make a standalone Game of Thrones movie for HBO Max because it's a cool story and it's content. It doesn't have to be this big epic thing that ultimately ties into everything, and it can just be, hey, here's a piece of content and have at it. And I'm fine with shorter stories in Game of Thrones that it just is what it is, and that's fine.
And the thing that I think is going to be interesting is you have a chance to do, even like with the Corlys Velaryon thing, you could do 1 season, 2 seasons, depending, if folks really like it, well, you're going to start to weave it in more. It's going to evolve. We're going to have our own kind of TV show versus the books. The books are there as reference material and outline, some cool stuff. You have the creator who's on board, who wants to talk to you about these things. I think we're going to get a pretty epic House of the Dragon, and we're going to get some offshoot shows that are going to be interconnected to the big show, which is House of the Dragon. I think we're going to fill in gaps that I never thought we were going to fill in. And we're going to build up to maybe 8 seasons of House of the Dragon for the final thing, with other shows going on at the same time. I mean, if they're going to do that, now I'm sitting here going, all right, now we're going for it. And yes, bring George in on this and let him, he's a fan of TV and film. So let him come in here and try his hand at some, well, not just try his hand. He's proven himself. He can write, he can do whatever he wants. Get him in here, use that creative mind and make this feel legit. Take us on an adventure. I think it's great. It's great news. And I know people are going to say, Winds of Winter is dead, blah, 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 blah. No, it's not. It's not. I joked at the beginning. It's really not. I've said it all along. I always have believed in George. He wants to finish his series. This is in his mind. He wants to get it out on paper, but there's a lot to it. He's been writing this for a long time, and he gave folks a great TV show that we talked about for a decade. You know, I mean, we've got to remember that and say thank you for that. And thank you for everyone who worked on it and gave it to us. And now we want more of it. I mean, it's epic. And there will come a time where it will get finished. He'll pass it on if he needs to. He'll bring in people to help him, whatever. I'm not too worried about Winds of Winter. Honestly, I'm not, you know?
Right. Okay.
So, yeah.
All right. Well, guys, let us know. What do you think? George signed this deal. I know a lot of people are out there already posting videos and content saying Winds of Winter is officially dead, but I don't think so, Ez. I just think he's not racing against the show here like he was before. And I can see how that could cause somebody to be like, oh my God, I'm not going to finish. And you have all this pressure. No, now you're just, heck, his future is pretty secure now. I mean, heck, mid deal sounds to me like $50 million. So we don't have an actual dollar amount, but mid 8-figure deal sounds like, well, $50 million to me. So heck, sign me up. That's $10 million a year. So that's some pretty good money. So all right, guys, let us know, shoot us a comment, and remember that winter is coming.